When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
It's June 17th, 1631, and another remarkable event is about to be uncovered by Arion, Rebecca, and Olly, the Retrospectors.
Death in childbirth was a sadly common occurrence through most of history, and so when Mumtaz Mahal, wife of the Mughal Emperor, died from complications delivering their 14th child today in history in 1631, it wasn't an unusual outcome. What was unusual was what followed, the emperor dedicating the next 17 years to crafting her a fitting mausoleum, the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, one of India's most beloved poets, Rabindranath Tagore, famously called the Taj Mahal a teardrop on the cheek of time. And the love story behind it certainly lives up to that reputation. You know, in 1631, we were 3 years into the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan's reign, and a rebellion led by one of his rivals called Khan Jahan Lodi was underway. And Shah Jahan took his military out to Deccan, which was about 400 miles from Agra, in order to crush this usurper. And as usual, his beloved wife... Yeah, really romantic. But, well, what was romantic was that Shah Jahan's beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal, accompanied him despite being heavily pregnant. And eventually she gave birth to this healthy baby girl in an elaborately decorated tent in the middle of the sort of warlike encampment that they were leading. And at first all seemed well, but Mumtaz Mahal was soon dying. And just one day after the birth of their daughter, Mumtaz Mahal died in her husband's arms.
And reports from the time, and I think even though we're talking about the 1600s, you can rely on these reports because this was a pretty important bloke. The descendants of the medieval monarchic rulers of what may have been the wealthiest empire in the world, in a good bit of nominative determinism, the name that he'd chosen for himself meant king of the world. So when people said what he did, it probably was true. And what they said was that he went to his own tent after this. And of course, I mean, it's devastating. Imagine, you know, your wife dying in childbirth, but cried for 8 days without ceasing. And the tale goes that when he then emerged from the tent, he was said to have aged considerably. He had white hair suddenly. And really from that moment, I mean, you see echoes of this in Victoria and Albert, I guess, is the closest parallel in the West, isn't it? From that moment onwards, he dedicated his entire life to remembering his wife. He was like, not only are we going to build her a mausoleum, but we're going to build her the finest building in the world to house that mausoleum, which became the Taj Mahal. But as we'll get onto later, even after the Taj Mahal is built, I'm going to keep adding to it for the rest of my life. And even after that, I'm going to try and build another one. So important is my devotion to this woman.
Yes, I mean, what was so great about Mumtaz Mahal?
There's something about Mumtaz.
There's something about Mumtaz. She was born Arjumand Banu Begum, that was her birth name. Actually, Mumtaz Mahal is a title. It means exalted one of the palace, and Taj is actually thought to be a shortening of Mumtaz, so the building is actually named after her, it seems. The title is clearly a formality, but it does seem like it reflects a devotion between the young couple. The Shah had 4 other wives at various points during the marriage. She was the second.
Romance!
I know. She was the second of 4. She had married the Shah at age 19.
He loved her so much, he chose 2 others after her.
And he was in love with her. What happened was, while they were engaged, he had to marry somebody else for kind of political purposes. So while they were still engaged, he married someone else.
No, that's the first one, Rebecca. It's the third and fourth
yes,
that I question.
Understand. So he gave her the title of Mumtaz Mahal. And for context, his first wife received the comparatively underwhelming title The Lady from Kandahar, which sounds like a 1940s thriller. His third wife would be referred to as The Lady from Akbarabad. So you can see, you know, he really went to town.
Chosen one of the palace was his favourite. Fair
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was so great about her? Well, first, it was just the question of status. You know, regardless of Shah Jahan's feelings towards her, she was the chief consort and empress of the Mughal Empire at this point. Her family were top-drawer Persian aristocracy. She herself, though, she was well-educated and cultured. She wrote poetry. She spoke several languages, but was also known for being gracious and tactful Mahal, very well versed in court etiquette. And you can see this by the way that she was actually very popular in court, despite the fact that she was heavily involved in Shah Jahan's decision-making. He trusted her above all others. During all his official meetings and receptions, she would sit beside him but behind a curtain and would apparently touch his back if she thought he was making a mistake. And remarkably, despite this, she managed to avoid being portrayed as a power-hungry woman by resentful courtiers, and she apparently used her influence mostly on behalf of the poor and unfortunate rather than to advance her family's own interests.
Well, that's right. It was her warm-heartedness that I think really made the public so enamoured with her.
You're not allowed to write about anything else, are you? So, I mean, of course, if someone comes across with a vaguely Queen of Hearts vibe, oh, she likes orphans, let's write about her.
You're really trying to cut down the romance of this story, aren't you, man? She was meant to have genuinely cared for not just her status and her position and her husband, but also the people. She diligently, apparently, made lists of widows and orphans to ensure that they were given food and money. And the couple had 14 children together. Only 7 of them lived past infancy. But, you know, she provided this long legacy that was going to outlive her, which also would have made her very much a favourite at the time.
Yeah, so the Taj Mahal, as it came to be, is located on the right bank of the Yamuna River in Agra. It's actually, incidentally, the first mausoleum in the world dedicated to a woman, which is kind of mad when you consider. I know that 1600 is a long time ago, but also it's Shakespeare's time. Like, it's kind of weird to think no one had ever thought that they'd dedicate a mausoleum to a woman before, but they hadn't. And this was going to be pioneering in all sorts of ways, not just because of that, but also because of the architectural styles, combining Indian, Persian, and Islamic influences. That was important to Shah Jahan because he believed in taking elements from many faiths, actually. Obviously, he was a devout Muslim because there's, you know, verses of the Quran all over the thing. But, you know, he was a Sunni, she'd been a Shiite. He wanted this to be inclusive and to be something that people from around the world would come and see as a monument to her beauty and his religion and culture. And so he took all the skills that he could, really, from all over the world. And by skills, I do mean huge amounts of migrant workers who were exploited. 20,000 were brought in and housed nearby in a town built especially for them, Mumtaz Mahal. And you're talking, I mean, the whole shebang. Stone cutters, carvers, painters, calligraphers brought from across his empire. India, Persia, the Ottoman Empire, even Europe. He could afford whatever he wanted.
The bricks and the sandstone that kind of formed the basis of the building were sourced locally, but the famous white marble cladding had to be brought 250 miles from Rajasthan. And you can imagine that is no small distance in the 1600s. You know, they brought jade from China, sapphires from Sri Lanka, turquoise from Tibet.
Well, one person who had a unique opportunity to enjoy this pioneering palace was Shah Jahan himself for a really weird reason. So he remained in deep mourning for a good 2 years, and this gave Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan's 4th son, Aurangzeb, the opportunity to successfully kill his 3 elder brothers and imprison his father. So after 30 years as emperor, Shah Jahan had been usurped and placed in the quite luxurious Red Fort in Agra, but he was forbidden to leave. He spent his final 8 years gazing out a window at the Taj Mahal itself. So he had this sort of prime spot from which to enjoy the building that he had built to his wife that had ultimately undone him.
But the reason that his son imprisoned him was that he would not let this go. Like, having, as I alluded to earlier, having created the Taj Mahal, he then wanted another tribute to be built, a black marble mausoleum on the other side of the river. So the Taj Mahal was just going to be half of it. And then on the other side, he wanted to build another black Taj Mahal in parallel. This had taken 17 years to build. With like a bridge to connect them.
Yeah, and I mean, Shah Jahan had intended the Taj Mahal as solely a monument to Mumtaz, but when he died, Aurangzeb, who, in case you didn't get this from him killing his 3 brothers, wasn't a great guy, and was also a bit of a cheapskate. He had his father just buried in the Taj Mahal, which saved him having to build an even more elaborate tomb.
They've got a tomb anyway. They've got a famous tomb.
Like, you'd have to
stick him in.
The
He
emperor
loved her
would
so
have
much.
to, for, you know, status reasons, have a better mausoleum than the empress, who was just the wife. So he obviously looked at the prospect of building a bigger, better Taj Mahal and was like, do you know what? Just go in the one we've got already. I'm not doing another one.
Meantime, the original Taj Mahal is still the biggest tourist draw in India. It is one of those things that just sticks in your brain if you've ever been there, which I have. You know, it's like a visceral experience that you recall. You can remember how the air felt. You can remember how it looked in the light because there's nothing else around it. It just stands alone and you see the effort that it must have taken to build this incredible thing in this remote place.
Yeah, and I think also the effort that it took to maintain it, because, you know, over the years, the Taj Mahal fell into at least a state of disrepair, if not total degradation. And by the 1800s, the British were starting to cut gemstones from its walls and stole silver candlesticks and the doors and tried to sell some of the white marble overseas.
The British misbehaving with Indian heritage, that doesn't sound like us.
I know, isn't it astonishing? Lord Curzon, who was the British Viceroy of India, put an end to all of that, and rather than looting the Taj Mahal, he actually worked to start restoring it.
You know what this place needs? A tea room.
Yes, exactly. I'll put it next to these, what are these things that are propping up that seem to be some sort of, I don't know, cenotaphs or something. Anyway, I'll put it there. But you still have this air pollution that's causing damage from the foundries and other nearby factories, as well as the exhaust from motor vehicles. And all of that has meant that it's losing its luster, and it's taking real efforts to this day to continue to maintain it.
Yeah, well, if you can't make it to Agra, you can visit one of the upwards of a dozen replica Taj Mahals around the world. In China, the Taj Mahal is one of the attractions at the Window of the World theme park in Shenzhen. And if you're thinking, a replica Taj Mahal, that sounds tacky enough for Dubai, you're bang on, because the city-state has plans for a 20-story mega hotel called the Taj Arabia, planned as a full-scale replica of the Taj Mahal, but made of glass. You have, however, missed a chance to visit what was surely the tackiest of them all. 3 words, Trump Taj Mahal. 4 words, Trump Taj Mahal Casino. It was located on the famous boardwalk of Atlantic City in New Jersey, but fortunately or unfortunately, it was dissolved. It is now the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
I love the idea that anyone would be like, what, go to Uttar Pradesh? No, I can go to New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Tomorrow.
The money was kept in a big iron chest and not in a bank until 1776.
Well, the last one alive gets to keep it all.
Ditch the ads and get a Sunday episode when you join Club Retrospectors. Patreon.com/Retrospectors.